Hey everybody, Sue here from She Sells. Tonight I'm here with Jared Eliseo, my
Hi.
CPA. And everybody's met him before. Everybody knows I went to Jared. So there's been a lot of talk on the morning shows and stuff and other things where people have been talking about hiring employees. So I just decided that, I would have Jared on and we would actually talk about not just the nuts and bolts of, what forms you have to fill out and everything, but I'm going to have Jared put on his business consulting hat and just talk about things like, how do you decide if you need an employee? Just those kind of things to think about when you're considering that. And I feel like, I know it's only, is it May? But I mean, we're gonna blink and it's gonna be Q4 already. So it's really time to at least start thinking about those things if you want to, maybe have that for Q4. So I'm just gonna let you start off, Jared, and talk about, things to think about if you're trying to hire an employee. And we'll just go
Sure,
from there.
sure.
And then towards the end, if you have questions, we'll try to wait till towards the end and we'll answer questions at that time.
Alrighty. So thanks for having me on, Sue. Appreciate that.
Anytime.
And you and I have talked about this a little bit in the past as well. Just how do we, as business owners, determine when is the right time? When, am I ready for this? Can I afford it? So there's a lot of questions that come up when it comes to bringing on people, bringing in the help. And honestly, you can't. We're all one human being, right? So we can only grow a business to a certain point, and then we're stuck. We all have a ceiling. There's only 24 hours in a day. We can only be in one place at a time. But if we have people helping us, sky's the limit. We can do virtually anything. So the very first thing as a business owner that anyone who's looking to hire really wants to think about is, what role do I need to fill? And so what you want to do is you want to sit down and basically write down, what is it that this person's going to do if I bring them in? Are they, in your case, right? You sell, you're a reseller. Are they going to be doing sourcing? Are they going to be going out and actually buying goods for me? Are they going to be prepping and shipping items in? Are they going to be handling customer returns if maybe you're doing fulfilled by merchant, or maybe you're doing eBay? What exactly is this person's role going to be? And it can be more than one thing. I mean, they could come in and do 4 jobs, but you want to have it narrowed down. So when you're interviewing, you can essentially say to somebody, Monday, you'll be doing this. Tuesday, you'll be doing this. Wednesday, you'll be doing this. Or you'll be working 20 hours a week and you're going to be, 4 hours you'll be spending on this and 6 hours you'll be spending on this. So you really want to have that narrowed down for that person. It's going to help them understand what they're getting into. It's going to help you as the business owner make sure you're filling in the role that you either don't want to do or you need help getting done. So, I think that's kind of the first step. With that, you also want to determine in that process, am I looking to hire somebody who has to have a particular set of skills? I mean, this is, yes, I know it's the big famous line from Taken, right? But does this person?
I didn't see that movie.
You didn't see that movie? Come on, Sue. Come on. I'm going to send you a copy of it.
All right, I'll have to go back and watch that.
But do you have a highly specialized skill set? So let's get outside the wheelhouse for a minute. Think of like an auto mechanic, right? Or do you need someone to come in who knows how to take an engine apart and put it back together versus somebody who just needs to know how to change oil and spark plugs, right? There's a way different set of skills that go into either of those tasks. And if you need someone who has that particular set of skills, a highly sought after skill, you really need to consider that in how you're going to approach your possible candidates. So that's another consideration that you want to address.
Because likely, if you use that example, you could train somebody pretty easily to change oil, but you couldn't really teach them that skill while you're trying to have them work. You couldn't really teach somebody to take an engine apart and put it back together.
Right. That would be more of, we ever hear the term of an apprenticeship, right? So that's like,
Right.
because taking an engine apart is probably something that's not done that often, but maybe, I don't know, maybe you're a mechanic who specializes in this. You want to have somebody in there who's seen it, who can help you with it, who's not going to slow you down if you're just trying to, like, I guess, scale up your operation. Now, if you need somebody in there who you're willing to train, take time with, maybe you're willing to take kind of someone who's a little bit greener at that, who you can sit there and say, okay, you're going to do this step, then you're going to do this step. And maybe you can do it 4 or 5 times before you start to trust them to do it by themselves. So there's a little bit of a difference, but when you're writing out your roles and responsibilities for this person, you're going to highlight and identify exactly what key skills you need in a person. I mean, customer service, right? This person needs to be able to talk to other people. So if they've never interacted with customers before, if they've never had that client-facing role, as we call it in accounting, maybe you don't want to hire someone who doesn't have that experience, because they may not know the right things to say to people. They might scare them all away. They may, just turn people off in general. So it's writing down the responsibilities is going to help you really figure out what skills, who you're looking for. And with that, part of that, comes the next item. You're going to figure out, do I have a contractor situation? Do I have a part-time employee? Do I need a full-time employee? And you get to kind of determine that based on what your criteria are. This is going to be, something that's, I think, highly debated. It is and it isn't. So there are very clear rules on what a contractor is and what an employee is. I think that a lot of people, maybe the better way to say it is, they just kind of rationalize, I have a contractor because I only pay them to work for me 8 hours a week. The reality is, if you bring somebody into your business and say, I need you here from, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., and you're going to work with my tools in my business, my store, my shop, my home, wherever they are, you're an employee. They're working at your direction with your equipment on your time. That is a bona fide employee. It doesn't matter if they work for you 2 hours a week, 12 hours a week, 40 hours a week, whatever. They are a bona fide employee, by the rule of the law. If you, on the other hand, if you hire somebody, or you need somebody who's just like, look, I got all this work that needs to get done. I don't care how you do it. I don't care when you do it. Just get it done and send me the bill. That's a contractor. You're not telling them when to show up. You're not telling them how to do it. You're just giving them, basically, I need it done, and expecting them to do it for you. Now, you might have to give them a little bit of guidance. You might have to say, hey, this is how I do it. This is how I would like you to do it. That's okay. But you're not necessarily letting them come into your shop and pack it all up or whatever they're doing and send it off while they're in your wherever, if that makes sense, right?
So I have a lister, and I've told her, what I expect out of my eBay listings, but I load up pictures for her, and then at any time, I like her to do 5 a day, but anytime, she uses her computer. She doesn't come to my place. She does it on her own time with her own equipment and that kind of thing. So for her, and I pay her by the piece too. So, so for her, or for me, she's my contractor. The person who comes and works for me part-time in my place of business with my tools is my employee.
Yes, exactly. And I think the more defining role in the second one too is you kind of set the hours with your employee and say, hey, I'd really like you to be here on this day from this time to this time. And this is exactly what we're going to do on that day. And you're there to help if that person needs something. So it's more structured. I think that's like kind of the key here as we look at how is this structured? Are you just kind of free to do what you want? It's kind of why we call them freelancers, right? Just do it however you want, whenever you want. Or are you are you at my mercy? You know, am I telling you what to do, how to do it, specifically giving you everything you need to get the job done?
So let me just give another example. So if I decided at the beginning to hire Carla, and I had her come here and I showed her how I do things, and then I said, okay, starting next week, once a week or something, I'm going to drop this load off at your house, and just you do it. You put it into Inventory Labs and you ship it off and let me know when it's done. So that would that qualify as a contractor then?
That's it sounds like it's a contractor situation. You know, I guess, yeah, you could probably argue you're bringing this person stuff, you're telling them they have to get it done in a certain time frame, things like that. But you know, maybe we're just being.
I mean, I'm saying like once a week I just drop it off, and at her own time or whatever, she's gonna, put it through the Inventory Labs at her house and then ship it off and let me know when it's done. I'm not giving her like it has to be done.
Yeah, no, okay. So if you're doing that, if it's just basically drive by, dropping it off, going on with your business, yeah, that sounds like a contractor relationship. You know, even if she's logging into your Inventory Labs account, I mean, that's a piece of software that you use. You know, you're just giving someone access to. That's not a big deal. But if you were, if you were like, here's all my computers and scanners, and I'll buy tape and stuff like that, and you don't have a formal agreement with her that you would provide that and pay for it, then that would be probably a little bit more of an employee situation, even though she's not at your place of business.
Because actually, like, I've used a processor a few times, and they even log into my Inventory Labs.
Yeah.
Like they have partial access into my Inventory Labs.
Yeah. That's totally fine. You know, we have to be a little bit more reasonable with, we have to give people access to some of the software to get the work done. So, yeah, and your definition and your examples here, you're perfect. You know, you have a legitimate contractor, you have a legitimate and bona fide employee as well.
Okay.
And I would say no one would ever argue if you had a contractor and you paid them as an employee, the IRS, the Department of Labor, nobody's ever going to come to you and say you did it backwards. It's the other way around. It's when we're paying people as contractors who qualify as bona fide employees. That's when you're more likely to get, scrutiny from any regulator. Right. And that's because no taxes are being taken out. And so these people, now the IRS is waiting to get their money from these people when they file their taxes. And so I think that's part of it. The other side of it too is there are employment laws meant to protect employees. And so if people are being forced into these contractor relationships, they're surrendering those rights. And so there is a component of protecting the employee base of the country as well.
Okay.
So, but once you kind of figure out what type of person you're going to hire and have working for you, whether it's a contractor, an employee, full-time employee or part-time employee, you might want to see if you can find a way to test the waters with a contractor first. And so maybe you figure out all the things you need done and see does it make sense that I could hire a contractor? And the reason I say that is because that is the simplest method to hiring and firing people, right? So you can bring somebody in, this is working out, great, make them an employee. Maybe you want to give them more responsibilities and maybe you feel comfortable having them work under a structured time frame and all of that. Go ahead and convert them into an employee. But maybe you get somebody in the door and you're like, this person's not working out. I don't really like how they do my work. You just get rid of them. You don't owe them anything. You owe them whatever you owe them, but you don't owe them any unemployment. You don't have to give them any notice. You can just say, this isn't working, don't come back. So you still have to work within the examples we talked about to have a contractor and an employee. But I think it's a good way to kind of test the waters before getting into all of the stuff, all of the paperwork that comes with hiring actual employees. Okay. Which we'll talk about that.
The fun stuff.
Yeah, the fun stuff. So the next consideration when you're looking to hire somebody is what is the learning curve on this position? Is this going to be something that someone's going to come in and learn in 6 months, 3 months, a year? How long is this going to take? How long reasonably should I give this person to learn everything they need to know before I decide they're a rock star or I need to get rid of them? And you can kind of figure out if what's more important to you. Can I afford to have somebody who's got more experience in here because business is blowing up and I just need to get the stuff done. I don't have time to train somebody. Or are you trying to just scale slowly? You have time to train somebody. You want to save a couple bucks, so you pay a little bit less money to train somebody. And so that will kind of help you figure out with the whole learning curve what's more important to you. What can you afford to do? What do you want to do at the end of the day too? So learning curve, I think, is kind of an essential component as well to all of this.
And I think just because, I worked in retail management before, and something to just think about and consider that somebody who hasn't had employees before might not think about is if you do hire somebody that's, say, had their own Amazon store before or had their own eBay store before, and you think, great, they know exactly what to do. Sometimes they don't do it the way you did it. And sometimes it's harder to retrain somebody your way than just getting somebody who, maybe sold a little bit on the side or maybe knows a little something about Amazon, but hasn't really done it themselves before. So that's just another thing to think about.
Absolutely.
And I mean, when I'm considering having another employee, my thought was to start out at, say this dollar amount and say, let's work at it for a couple of months. I'll get you all trained up and everything. And at that point, if you're happy with the work and I'm happy with your work, then I'll give them a raise. So it's something you're not like jumping right out of the gate and giving them a pretty good salary, yet you want them to stay as well. But you first want to see how they're going to do. So it's kind of that same training period thing again.
I think that 90 days seems to be a pretty good sweet spot, especially when we're talking about small businesses and kind of these ever-changing like home-based businesses as well. We're instinctively we don't really know what we need until we get someone in there doing the work. I see that all the time. Oh, hey, I hired someone to do sales and now they're doing administrative work and it's really helping my business and everything's great. And they, it's almost like the business owner didn't know what they really needed until they brought somebody in. And I think that's just the nature of the beast.
I think sometimes when it comes to small business, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but when it comes to small business, you really need somebody that's flexible and can kind of do this and that when it's unexpected, like, oh my gosh, this week this has really popped up and I really need your help with this. But I'm going to say one other thing, because I see in the chat some people had talked about, like hiring their family, or I hired an old friend of mine. And I mean, we've been friends. I mean, our kids grew up together. And so my youngest is 25. So we've known each other that long. And she had kind of helped me out just here and there the Christmas before last. And then she, I hired her. I mean, to start out, she was working 1 day a week. And we sat down and this is what I told her. Look, we're going to try this for 2 months. Your friendship is more important to me than the employee and employer part. And so we're going to do this for 2 months. And at the end of 2 months, we're going to sit down and talk about, is it working for you? Is it working for me? And we can't take the we have to take like the friendship out of it. It's strictly a business thing. So that's something, because I think, again, in small business, you tend at times to hire a friend or a neighbor or a family member.
Yep.
And that really needs to be said up front, because it can hurt people's feelings. I mean, it can hurt somebody's feelings when you just fire somebody who you don't know as well. But I mean, it's that extra layer into, when it's a friend or a family member. I think that's just things that you need to think about ahead of time.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's a great point too. If you're out there and you're thinking about, I'm going to hire my cousin, I'm going to hire my brother, my sister-in-law, really just think about your family dynamic. Think about what you're bringing this person in to do as well, like what you're asking them to do. Is it low stress, easy to do? Anyone could do it. I trust that they can get it done, no problem. And they're just looking to make a couple extra bucks and it's temporary. Maybe it's okay. But is this a really critical role to my organization and I'm going to need this person long term and, you know, they can help me for now and they might get a job later on. All right, well, maybe that's not the best fit for you and it's worth you suffering a little bit longer while you hire or look to hire the right person. And I know we want to be able to help our friends and family and support each other, but sometimes it's just not worth the mental anguish and the emotional kind of roller coaster that can come from it. It's you're almost better off not doing them the favor.
You have to think about what Thanksgiving dinner will be like if you have to let them go.
Exactly.
Somebody also had mentioned in there, you know, like how do you find a contractor? But I mean, one of the things that I was going to mention was, you know, because somebody mentioned Craigslist in there, and I don't know if most people have this or have heard about it now, but it's kind of like, it's called Nextdoor. It's like a local Facebook in a way. And one of the things that's nice about putting an ad there, first it's free, but you know that it's kind of people from your area. Because in a way, like, okay, so I live in the Atlanta metro area. If I put an ad in Craigslist, I don't really want somebody with the Atlanta traffic and stuff that lives an hour from me. And that's pretty easy in Atlanta. It could be, you know, during certain times of the day, they might not live that far away, but be an hour away. So Nextdoor is just kind of a great, you know, but, you know, asking people at church or at school or I actually, one of the first ladies that helped me out that first Christmas, I sold her something on Facebook Marketplace. We met up in the Publix parking lot and we just started chatting and she had just moved here and she still does things for me every once in a while. Like if I'm looking for a certain product, I'll just send her a text. Hey, do you have time to make some phone calls for me today? So, you know, she still works for me just a little bit here and there. I've also had, you know, I had bought some wholesale stuff a while back and I had this pile of boxes and I just needed cleaning and straightening and lifting and mashing up boxes and stuff. And I just hired one of the kids from our Boy Scout troop and he came on Saturday and worked for me 5 or 6 hours. So, you know, it depends on what you need. But it's just, you know, you can sort of look local and look for friends and neighbors and that kind of thing. And not necessarily hiring them, but ask them, do they know anybody?
Yeah. No, that's a great point. You don't need to go on, you know, LinkedIn and Indeed to hire. That's not the only place you can find people to hire. I mean, you just look anywhere. Someone's willing to do something to make a buck. And it's exactly what you said, though. Figure out what you need done. So if is this a day thing? Can I pay a kid to come in and put my place up for 5 hours? Or do I need somebody for 6 months to do something a little bit more ongoing? And just get creative. Yeah. Ask around, ask friends, ask people that you know from church. You know, you'll be amazed who knows somebody who's looking for an opportunity. So I think that's a great point. And that too kind of plays into my next, I guess, point, timing, right? So we want to consider the timing of when we need to hire somebody. So if you're looking for somebody and you just mention it to a friend or, you know, passerby, they might say, yeah, I know somebody. And then it might just all kind of work out, right? Because you just brought it up at the right time. But there's also timing leading into what you're trying to accomplish. So you mentioned earlier, we started the show, it's May, right? Middle of May, end of May. Q4 is right around the corner. It's going to be here before you know it. 3-4 months we'll be starting off. You want to have that person lined up before it starts, because it gets crazy. You don't want someone just coming in when it's starting to get crazy. You want them to have a little bit of time to learn the position and understand what they need to do. So maybe beginning of September, maybe after Labor Day is the right time to have that person start. Get just a little bit of lead time into what it is you need them to do in the fourth quarter. And then when when it's all kind of going on, you don't have to worry about all the training aspect. It's all out of the way. Does that cost you money? Of course it costs you money. It's an investment for you to be prepared. But think about the other side of it too. If you wait until after Labor Day to start looking, you hire somebody in the beginning of October. Now it's October 15th, October 20th before they really understand the role. And maybe Amazon's putting out emails already. Hey, you got to have all your stuff in by November 12th to make sure it's, on the shelves for Black Friday. So,
or you find out in 2-3 weeks that they're not going to work out.
Yeah.
Now you're into October trying to hire somebody, and you're at your peak shipping in time,
Right. Exactly. So you just have to think about what is it that I need this person to do, and when will I need them to be able to do it by? So, I'm an accountant, right? My tax season gets busy. If I need help, I'm looking in late October, November. Why am I doing that? Well, number one, holidays are in the way. So even if I hire somebody beginning in November, I have 2 major holidays I have to deal with where we're not in the office. We're not able to really, work with each other. But 2, I don't need them misunderstanding direction in the beginning of January, middle of January, not the right time. And I need to be able to trust this person is going to work out. Ideally, if I'm in that position, I've found somebody probably in September, October. But if, beginning in November, after that, it's kind of like, no, there's no point.
Right.
You're better off just sucking it up. So you got to really think about when the timing, you don't want to be too late. You don't want to be too early. You wouldn't hire someone today to get them ready for the fourth quarter. It wouldn't be the right play. But also when you understand the timeline as to when you need them, you have the opportunity to interview as many people as possible. So you don't have to hire the first person that comes your way. You don't have to settle for the first person that knocks on your door, because right now you got 3 or 4 months. Wait until September. You may be so desperate and you might just say, I got to take whoever because I just need hands. So understanding the timing will give you that kind of foresight when you should start looking, and then also the opportunity to interview more candidates to get the best, kind of the cream of the crop. My only point on, I guess one more point on hiring: you hire slow, you fire fast. If they're not working out, get them out of there. Just get rid of them and move on. Pull the Band-Aid off. You don't need it. You don't. It's not worth it. It'll take you broke, and you probably at that point have worked too hard and are just trying to make your life better by hiring somebody and make your business stronger. You don't need dead weight. So just get rid of them. So last point that I want to cover is cost, affordability. Can I afford to do this? So, besides rent, employees, labor is going to be the largest line item on your profit and loss statement. It actually could be in most cases higher than rent, but rent is, it's up there. So when you're bringing somebody in, you're considering bringing someone in, does what they do, do they make money for your business, or are they kind of filling an administrative burden? Are they giving you an opportunity to spend more time with your family? Maybe, Sue, in your case, when you hired me, and I know I'm not your employee, but when you made the decision to begin working with me, you just kind of had it. You didn't want to do the work anymore. I get the impression it was late nights when it was getting done. You didn't want to deal with it.
You know that even now, when I send you my numbers for the month or my paperwork for the month, it's always at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, and it's like at this point you're just sending paperwork, so give me a break. But it's not. We can both agree that my role doesn't necessarily generate income for your business, but peace of mind. Number one, it's now getting done. It's getting done by a professional, and it's freeing you up to actually go out and make more money. You can go out and source more goods. You can spend some time prepping and shipping things in. You can even kick around on eBay if you decide you got to get some listings up or something, or ship some stuff out for that. So it's actually allowing you to make money as a byproduct of not spending that time going and having to deal with the accounting side of it. And you also have a little bit more time with your husband. If you don't want to do something, you can just take the afternoon off or take the weekend off and spend time with Paul, and that's good for you too. We got to have our kind of mental health here.
And honestly, it to me, like you know how I was. I mean, like I wanted to do it, but I hate spending 10 cents on something I can do myself.
Absolutely.
So I really struggled with it at the beginning, but the minute we started, it was like freedom.
No, if you had to go back to it, I think that you would have realized immediately.
That'd be tough.
It'd be tough. But there's also another side to look at too when we're talking about affordability, and that is, do my sales support my decision? Did I just hit a lucky month where things are going really well and I'm feeling really good, I got all this money in the bank? Or if I hit a lucky streak of 3, 4, 5, 6 months where, hey, trend's starting to show, I'm doing something right. I shouldn't even call it a lucky streak. I should just say this is the trend. Yes, I can probably support hiring somebody when my sales show that consistently for, a period of time. If you just have 1 month where you've done well, I'd say hold on. Let it go another couple months. Let's see how things are going. You might see a spike and then a drop in your sales, and it might just be, some freak month. Maybe whatever, something was selling and it just did really well that month, and it maybe doesn't really justify overall hiring somebody. Or maybe, sales aside, you've just decided this investment in a person will help grow my sales. That may be the other side of it too. So let that side of the equation tell the story for you a little bit, help you decide, should I hire somebody? Can I afford it? And I think your numbers, will speak for themselves when you start to review that a little bit.
So do you think that, okay, so you're seeing trends, you're doing better and better. You expect to do really well this Q4, but today you don't feel like, I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you feel like you're getting close to that, do you have to be so over the top and like have so much extra money that it's like, you see what I'm saying? Like, can you just feel like you're close to that?
Sure.
Or you're seeing a trend that you feel like you're starting to get busy. Because I feel like sometimes if you wait for that perfect moment, it's might be too late, or you miss that opportunity. But the other thing too is, like, even if you don't think you can hire somebody 1 day a week or all week, you could part out little pieces like I do with that one lady. Hey, do you have a few hours to make phone calls for me? I mean, there's really no training to that. She's just calling a store and finding out if I had that product. So you could actually give out some little pieces like that before you can actually afford an employee.
That's a solid perspective on this, right? So we can slowly grow ourselves into it. So maybe you don't have the trends yet. Maybe you're not ready to commit to hiring employees. You're just not there yet, but you have work that needs to get done. Hire a virtual assistant. If it's administrative work, hop online, get a remote contractor who you can just say, hey, $10 an hour, $12 an hour. I just need you to do this stuff. Maybe it's 5-6 hours a week worth of work, and be ready to pay them because they're going to work for you and they're going to take work off your plate. But it gives you a little bit of taste of delegating. I mean, if you really want true freedom, learn how to delegate, and you'll never work another day in your life. But that's a great starting point before you start going full bore. I'm going to bring people in and I'm going to have them doing everything, and they're going to run this shop like a big business. You don't need to go that extreme with it. It can be this little like one-off. I just have this special project that needs to be done. I mean, special projects in the beginning when it comes to this stuff is a perfect way to kind of just scale it out a little bit. And then you might realize, okay, I have a virtual assistant. She's doing, maybe you get her up to 16 hours a week and she's great. She's doing administrative work. You don't have to deal with that. and now you're feeling good. You need someone to come with you to do sourcing, and you find someone locally who can go with you. There's a lot of different ways you can skin this cat. You don't need to, don't be in tunnel vision. Don't just look at it like it's going to be one person. Spread it around a little bit. Don't be afraid to try different things. Worst thing that happens, it doesn't work out, and you just got to move on to a different idea, right?
I'm laughing because Scott in the chat said, "Don't go to Walmart hungry." Alex, hang on just 1 second. We're going to take questions in just a minute. But,
don't go to Walmart hungry.
Last year, I went to the Green Room meetup, and we had a couple speakers. And actually, I was on a panel with some other guys talking about Amazon. And one of the things Craig brought up, I thought was an excellent point, was when you're thinking about outsourcing jobs, it doesn't have to just be in your business. Like he was saying, he outsourced, mowing the lawn because it gave him 3 more hours a week to work on the business.
It's a good way to look at it.
And, so there are things that could be just you're outsourcing, mowing the lawn, or I can't think of another one, household thing, but, so it's not necessarily only business things that could free up some time for you. But definitely think about, like the lady that I call every once in a while, she's a stay-at-home mom that has kids in school. So when she came and helped me out just a little bit that first Christmas, it was, during the hours that the kids were in school. And she was very flexible because she didn't have another job, but she liked just making some pocket change, because she said it goes towards, the kids' ballet class or this extra or that extra. She just liked having that little bit of extra. So stay-at-home moms are a really good, kind of fill-in kind of person.
Absolutely.
There, but
No, that's you kind of touching on something we're not talking about. And if someone's mowing your lawn, okay, you can't write that off on your tax.
Well, no, I didn't mean that either.
No. And so that's, we're siloing this conversation to the business, right? But let's blow this out a little bit. Let's say I need to have someone cleaning my house because I not only don't like doing it, I don't really have the time. All right, well, let's sit down and figure out what's it going to cost. $20 an hour, have somebody come in here and clean my house, takes them 3 hours. So it's $60 to get my house cleaned. Okay. Can you go out and make $60 in that same time? Can you go out and make $120 in the same time? So you get a little extra for yourself so that you don't have to clean your house. And it kind of betters your life, and you're bettering the life of somebody else. You've given someone else an opportunity to make their life better too. So it's kind of like a win-win, it sounds like. Now, you're only motivated to do that if you truly enjoy doing what you do more than you like cleaning your house, because if you hate your job and you hate what you do for a living, then it might be a tough sell. But I find that most entrepreneurs, at least, they enjoy what they do. Or even if this is a side hustle, can my side hustle pay for the cost of having someone clean my house? And maybe you just look at it as like a mental escape, right? Or I just get to go out and do something different with my time. I don't have to deal with cleaning my house. And honestly, someone else cleaning your house probably going to do a better job than you will, because you're trying to blaze through it and get done with it. And that person is actually doing their job and trying to impress you as the customer. So you'll probably get a better product for their time. So it's a great way to look at things. We shouldn't always try to quantify everything and attach the almighty dollar to every single thing in our life. But it's a great way to look at it. It's back to one of my examples before, like getting your oil changed, right? It's so cheap to do it yourself. You go buy the oil and the filter, and if you know what you're doing, you can probably knock it out pretty quickly. But you could probably also just drop your car off somewhere and get it done, and make back the money 2 or 3 times in the same amount of time. So it's kind of like, what's it worth to you?
Mm-hmm. And I will tell you that I did hire a maid for Q4, and I thought I was just going to keep her for Q4, but I kept her.
Still comes through.
Yeah. Once you have one, you can't live without it. Really. But you know how hard I work. I don't mess around.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean,
I'm just asking the chat for questions. So
you're
did we
earning
want to
some of these luxuries, you know?
yeah, did we want to just touch on real quick the paperwork part of it, or while we're waiting on questions, or
Yeah, we can. So, if you are in business and you're looking to, I guess, hire an employee, well, let's go with the contractor first. If you're looking to hire a contractor, you absolutely, before you pay them $1, you want to get a Form W-9 completed. And that is an informational form. That form basically says, here's my name, my address, my social security number, and I'm authorizing you to issue a Form 1099 to me at the end of the year if you've paid me more than $600 for services. So now there's some nuances. If they have an LLC and they're being taxed as a sole proprietor, then yes, you still have to give them a 1099. If they're a corporation, then most likely you do not have to give them a 1099. But let's just keep it simple. If you're just hiring Joe Schmo, social security numbers 1, 2, 3, whatever. Yeah, you want Form W-9. The reason you want it before you pay them anything is because if they don't give that form to you and you pay them more than $600 and you can't issue a 1099, the IRS doesn't care. You're still liable for that form. So it could come back on you down the road.
all right, Scott, let's stop right there because we have a good question. What about an overseas VA?
Is someone you're paying, if you're paying them directly, so if you just, there's companies, right? If you're using like Upwork or Fiverr or something, there's no obligation to you. If you're paying somebody directly, as long as they're an overseas, like a non-resident of the United States, you don't, there's no requirement that I'm aware of that says that you need to issue any sort of tax form to them. They're in their country, you're in the United States. They're actually earning their money in that other country. So it's on them and their responsibility to report that information to their country's government.
Okay, and then somebody's asking, is it wise to have a contract with a 1099 employee?
I don't see why not. I wouldn't get too crazy. Maybe it's just a one-pager. Hey, I'm bringing you in to do this. I've in the past when I've issued, when I've gone on contract gigs, it's just been very simple. We agree that this is a contractor relationship. I'm not your employee.
Okay.
I carry my own insurance. I do my work at my pace on my own equipment. Just kind of, it's a little bit more formal. It's probably a good, CYA, cover yourself a little bit, that if someone ever asked, if the IRS ever looked into it, the Department of Labor, yeah, hey, we signed this contract. This agreement says that they are a contractor and this is how we operated our relationship. So I think it's probably not a bad idea.
Okay.
And that's something simple enough. You could probably just Google for an example online and find something.
Okay. Okay, with no LLC or anything, if I were to pay a helper cash, how could I put that into my taxes? Or am I just stuck taking it out of pocket?
No, you can pay somebody in cash. I would probably document each payment somehow. If you're paying them in cash out of a bank account, maybe you just want to highlight those transactions and say this was cash paid to 1099 contractor and put their name on it. You still want to get a Form W-9. You can, as the person, just issue a 1099 to somebody else. You don't need to be an LLC. You don't need an EIN. People can 1099 each other because we can hire each other to work for each other. So there's no requirement that says you must be a business in order to issue a 1099. So make sure you get that W-9 filled out. But you can pay someone in cash as long as you document those payments.
Yeah, like that's what I did for Scott, the kid that I had come for that day. I just took cash out of, but then I made a notation for you. This was for Scott.
Right.
99.
Now let's talk about that. Let's just say you bring a kid in for 10 hours and you pay him $20 an hour. So you pay him $200 to help you out.
$20 an hour?
I don't know. I'm making numbers. I'm getting crazy here. So you end up paying this kid $200 to do something for you. He's not above the threshold, so you don't have to give him a 1099. You can, but you don't have to. At that point, you can still take the tax write-off. You still want to document, hey, I had Jimmy from the street down the street come in. Try to put first name, last name, maybe put his address, and just make a note of it. We can't win every single fight and every single struggle. We've got to be reasonable about it. And the IRS actually is reasonable too, if you've got something put together. Now, if you had 30 people doing the same thing, you might want to be a little bit more documented with your stuff, because that might look a little bit more fishy. But it's just
like every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, you have a kid come in.
Yeah, exactly. And it's every time it's somebody with a different name. Like, I don't know. Let's just think about it from the other side of the desk, right? What are they going to think if you have to show this to them? So documentation is your best friend in this case, but it's totally fine to pay people in cash. That's fine.
It reminds me of the comment you made about the mileage, how everybody went 10,000 miles.
10,000 miles. I'm going to tell you, anyone who's filing a tax return between April 1st and April 15th, they miraculously had 10,000 miles. I only drove 10,000 miles. All right, sounds good. Send that to me in an email.
And just like I think with other things, I mean, you're the accountant, so tell me if I'm wrong, but really what the IRS wants to see is documentation. Like, even if it's a notebook for the mileage or a calendar, and it's, showing each day how many miles you drove or whatever, it's not necessarily that you have to have like a printed record, but I mean, it is nice. Mile IQ I started using, which is another thing. For 2 years, I wrote things down, and I wasn't necessarily perfect at it. I was real good at the beginning of the year, but oh my gosh, it cost me $59 for the year. And it does give me like a printed record.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily that you have to have a printed record, but they want to see that you're keeping track of things, basically, right? And that you're kind of doing it the same way this time.
The worst thing you can do is show up to an IRS audit with a list of expenses that you put on a tax return, or a list of expenses, tax deductions, and absolutely no documentation, no receipts, no invoices, no bank statements, nothing to support what you're telling them actually happened. They will throw it all away and kick you out the door. They just, you've got to look at it from their perspective. There are 300 million people in this country, and if they just took everybody's word for it, they'd never win a case, never win an argument, right? So they just have to treat us all the same, and that's their expectation, is we can support what we're saying we're doing. So
Alex made a comment, thank you for the answer on the cash question or whatever. He said, I'm looking into getting an LLC soon. Should have done it already. But not everybody really has to do an LLC, do they? There's people that run. I mean, I have a friend that's a chiropractor, and for 29 years, he's done business as a sole proprietor. I'm not saying that's the perfect way to do it or not, but if you're starting out reselling, is it necessary to jump right into doing an LLC?
When you're starting out doing anything, you don't get ahead of yourself. Start, try it. If you like it, if you're committed to it, go set something up. Go incorporate, go set up an LLC. But on the first day, no. You can get a sales tax ID number without an LLC. You can pay people without an LLC. There is nothing that says you must be an LLC to run a business. An LLC can offer you protection, though, as a business owner. So if you have an LLC and it does something wrong, if there's some negligence, maybe you sell a product and it hurts somebody, we think about that a little bit. In that case, you're probably not liable, but let's just say you are. Your LLC will protect your personal assets. So it's a smart move, and it's generally, I'd say it's probably the cheapest insurance policy you can get, because generally they're less than a few $100 a year to have active. So that's why so many people run out and do it. But nothing there's nothing that I'm aware of that says you must have an LLC to do business. So
Okay.
hopefully that answers the question.
Okay. So, Alex, you will need to do it at some point, or you might want to do it at some point, but don't feel like you messed up because you haven't done it yet. That's all I was trying to say.
Yeah. Right.
Well, I'm not seeing any more questions. Anything else you could think of that you wanted to talk about, or, employee or other, just to wrap things up?
No, I think I can't think of anything. I think that hiring employees really gives you a really strong sense of freedom when you're running a business. Definitely golden rule, like I said before, hire slow, fire fast, and be picky. You're the business owner, so you can be picky, be choosy with who you hire. Don't feel like you've got to hire somebody because they're making you feel like they're the best person. There are a lot of people looking for opportunities and a lot of people who just want a chance to prove themselves. And maybe they're just nervous and they don't present well, but you can get them there. You want to look for somebody who's coachable. That I think is the key here. You want someone that you can train, who's willing to take direction and listen to you. Don't hire a know-it-all unless you really need someone to come in and fix a big problem. Don't hire that person because they're likely to just come in and do exactly what you said, Sue. They're going to do it their way, and suddenly your business is turned into their business, and it's its own nightmare in a sense. But I think that hiring people can be very redeeming and it can be very freeing. And you're managing people, so be aware of that too. But it's definitely the top way to grow your business is to bring in people to help you. So,
all right. So I'm just going to throw out a few suggestions. When you're hiring, because I did it for quite a long time. I hired a lot of employees, and one of my all-time thing to do, like when I sat down with somebody to hire them, I would literally, introduce myself, introduce themselves, whatever. And all I said was, tell me a little bit about your previous work experience. And literally in 1 minute, I could almost always tell in 1 minute whether I was going to hire them or not.
mm-hmm.
And when a person just started talking about their previous work and they had this job and they really liked it, it's when they turned and said, I did this job and I was really good at it, but I had the worst this or that. And they just start to whine and complain and tell you why they had to leave each job. And usually that type of person just goes on and on about each job and how bad it was, or some other person, made them have to quit or whatever. People can really talk themselves in or out of a job.
Mm-hmm.
That's let the employee, let the person that you're wanting to hire talk. And then the other thing too is you can train somebody on a lot of things, especially the stuff that we do. Like if you're hiring somebody, you can teach them how to peel stickers and put Amazon stickers and take pictures on eBay and those kind of things. But you can't really train a nice personality. So that's something that I would really think about. If seriously, you can hire somebody, especially when you're in a small business and they're going to come work in your basement with you or something. You want somebody that's pleasant and not a whiner and a complainer.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
that people don't have bad days once in a while, but there's things you can train and there's things you can't train. So I would consider, hiring somebody with a positive personality. And then my last tip is always feed your employees. Smallest things. I mean, it's little things that really make employees appreciate you. I have all these Starbucks rewards points, and I don't really like Starbucks. So at Christmas, I would have Q4, I had 2 or 3 helpers come over or whatever, and I would text them before they came, hey, what do you want from Starbucks? And they just were so appreciative of it. Or sometimes I'd just make grilled cheese, for everybody for lunch or something, or I would go out and get everybody sandwiches. And people just appreciate little things like that. And food is pretty cheap.
Yeah.
Who doesn't like food?
That's definitely something in my career, my experience. We've always been well fed no matter where I've worked, or, you know, if we're working long hours or big
Yeah.
projects, it's always like all the food you can eat and you're putting on 20 pounds and you have no
Well, you
time to go to the
you're
gym.
tired after lunch, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So I agree with that, though. I think food is definitely, when people are working hard for you, give back a little bit. Treat your people good. If you
Right.
find good employees, just make sure you treat them well. Make sure that they know that you appreciate them, because although you shouldn't settle for bad employees or bad contractors, they don't need to settle for bad employers. And right now, labor shortage in the U.S. So
Right.
jobs are plentiful.
Mm-hmm.
So you just
And,
have
you know, it makes a difference. Like, you know, you're not necessarily paying top dollar, but if it's a pleasant work environment and you get fed, you know,
yeah,
it really makes a difference to some people.
absolutely, absolutely. So no, I think this has been great, Sue. I mean, we've really covered a lot of good material here tonight.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for spending an hour with us. And, you know, I'll always, like always, I'll have your information in the description or whatever. If people want to get in touch with you, they can maybe shoot you an email.
Yeah, that's perfect. I mean, just shoot me an email. You know, we'll take it from there.
And I know it gets tough answering the same questions over and over all the time, but maybe this will
Yeah,
help.
yeah. I hope that the viewers have you know, they'll get some nuggets from this video. I've been considering a little bit, maybe just doing some like webinars or something for beginners, so that people can it can kind of address the masses. My time is limited. It's hard for me to do a lot of one-on-one stuff. So I think that's going to be an efficient way for me to maybe roll it out and help a lot more people a lot quicker and within a lot more, like, you know, reasonable price range, things like that too. So
Yeah, that would be
I,
a good idea, I think, because, you know, there are a lot of things to learn and know when you're starting a business, especially all the paperwork. I mean, there's not really, I mean, you don't see a ton of videos on, hey, here's what to do for bookkeeping when you're starting a reselling business or any small business, really.
Mhm.
And there are little things like I didn't really know about that. I don't know what you call it, that thing I had to do for the county on your inventory.
the business property tax. Yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, you know, we don't all know everything. So
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah. A lot of those small nuances people don't know about, and the, you know, the county, the state, whoever still expects you to take care of it and get it done. So
Come back to bite you.
yeah, yep, exactly. So yeah, hopefully I can help more people in the future. And you know, we've talked a little bit. I think I'm gonna start posting more videos as well, and hopefully get on a little bit more regularly with you and talk about different topics here and there. So
Sounds good. Okay, well, thanks everybody for stopping by, and let everybody else know about our little video here, and they can come back and watch it later. All right, good night, everybody.
all right, good night, Sue.